Hello and welcome wherever you may be in the world. My name is Ray Murphy and I'm the Learning Support Manager for Oxford College of Marketing, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Kathy Pickup and Jack Roberts. Kathy has been involved with CIM for, I think she told me, over 20 years, and she's actually been an examiner for CIM for 10 years for a variety of subjects. Jack has been involved with Oxford College of Marketing and is our postgraduate program level manager for the past 5 years, and Jack has also been a practitioner in the financial services industry, working for the banks, dare I say, Jack, for a number of years. And he does assure me that all the problems that they've experienced recently happened after he left, so he has no responsibility for that. So we're going to be talking about all three levels, the certificate, diploma and postgraduate level for the Chartered Institute of Marketing. But I want to really start off and talk a little bit about the process of learning. I think it's important that when we talk about dealing with examinations, passing examinations, submitting assignments, achieving good marks for that it doesn't just happen a few weeks before the exam or at the stage when you start putting the assignment together. It starts on that first day of learning. I think it's important to understand how we all learn, how we absorb information, how we process information. And how we retrieve that information as well. So the first thing is, how do we actually perceive and absorb information? We all see the world in a different way. We all look out and look at perhaps the same stimulus, but we perceive it in slightly different ways. And we take in this information into our brain in different ways as well. We store information and organise it in different ways as well. Perhaps some of us just shove it in a big bin and it's all there to try and retrieve at a later stage, but we can never find it. Or we might file things away very neatly in files and filing drawers and have it all indexed. And certainly I think when you talk to people, and I'm sure you've had experience yourself, you'll know people who are very organised in terms of how they store information and can easily access it in their brain. Other people where it's the information's there, but they can't just lay their fingers on it today. Okay, so it's important to think about that. Then we need to think about how we retrieve information and then apply this information to learning, because all that information effectively is learning. How do we actually apply the information? How do we learn and apply that and use that knowledge and information in the future and apply it to practical situations? So you need to start that process from day one. You need to think about your own particular style, how you absorb information, perhaps what the blockages are, what stops you absorbing information, what you're good at, what kind of stimulus you respond to most appropriately, how do you store it and how do you retrieve the information. We can talk a lot about different learning styles, and there's lots of theories around this, and I'm sure you can read about this. We can talk about the writers of theories of David Cole, Honey and Mumford, but I put it together into a sort of much more simplistic kind of approach, and I think people fall into one of two broad categories: people who learn by doing, and experimenting, and that's the sort of practical approach, isn't it? And people who learn by reading, watching, listening to others, and working it out in their own minds. So taking it on board, reflecting on what's happening, and actually applying that to a situation. So that's the more academic kind of approach, isn't it? I think it's important to recognise what your own preferred learning style is. I'll tell you a quick story here. When I was 17, I wanted to learn to drive, and I bought a book, which I don't know if it's still available, probably not, called Teach Yourself to Drive in 21 Days. So I read this book, I bought it, read it cover to cover. My father thought it was really amusing that anybody could learn to drive from reading a book. But that was my approach. I could read the book. When I got into the car on my 17th birthday, I'd rehearsed it mentally, what I should be doing, how I'd change gear. I'd watched what my father did when he drove and other people, and I looked at how people position cars on the road. I had all the theory. I just needed a little bit of practice on it. And I did that. I actually passed my test within 6 weeks of my birthday. So that was my approach. Other people would go in and sit in a car and play around with the controls, and eventually they'd look at the highway code and they'd think about it, and they'd get to the same ultimate final point, but in a different route. Now, I think it's important to recognise what your own preferred learning style is, and perhaps if you're a very practical person, you maybe need to focus a little bit more on the sort of academic, theoretical approach to learning. If you very much focus on the sort of theoretical, the academic approach, if you like, maybe you need to look at the practical approach. Now, we see this quite a lot in students who are submitting assignments or answering exam questions, that the people who often adopt the more theoretical academic approach find it more difficult to apply it to a practical situation. In the same way, people who are very practically orientated in terms of their learning style sometimes don't want to bother with the theory. Let's just go in and we'll do this because I think it's going to work. I feel right about it. It feels right, this. And they will have difficulty in justifying the approach that they're taking because the theory is being pushed to the background. So it's important, I think, to stop and think about your own learning style, your own strengths, your own weaknesses, and try to end up with a more balanced approach. So whatever your preferred learning style is, try to develop this balanced approach which will get you to the final result rather than just relying on one sort of approach. Okay, let me talk a little bit about how we store memories as well. All learning is based on stored memories, and all memories are based on the senses. So we have first of all, visual memories. Okay, we have pictures, and if I asked you to sort of recall the last holiday you had, you may well bring to mind a picture of that holiday. You're lying on a beach somewhere, or skiing on a ski slope somewhere. Whatever it may be, you'll have a picture of that. But maybe not. Maybe what you remember is the sound of it. And I can certainly remember I go skiing, and I can remember the sound of the skis on the snow, and when I think of the holiday, that sort of comes to mind. Yes, I have a visual memory as well, but the auditory memory is important as well, the sound. As is the sort of kinesthetic side of things. Kinesthetic means how it feels when I touch this lectern, how it feels emotionally. That's kinesthetic. And then we have olfactory, which is how it smells. Smells are actually very important, and I'm sure you've all experienced this, that you will smell something which will take you back to childhood. You'll remember something from a long, long time ago because of a particular smell that sort of stimulates, which goes right into that memory. You have that memory deep inside your sort of unconscious brain, conscious mind. And gustatory is how it tasted as well. Tastes are very important. We can taste things which, and again, like smells, they can go back a long time. So we have a combination there. And many people will say, well, I'm visual or I'm auditory. You're not one or the other. You'll use them all effectively. But it's a good, if you want to try and figure out what is the predominant style for you, what you prefer to do, or what somebody else prefers to do, listen to the words that people use. Visual people use words like, it looks okay to me, or I see what you mean. Auditory people in conversation will use words like, I hear what you say, it sounds okay to me. The kinesthetic people use terms like, I can't get a grip of that, or it doesn't feel right to me. Or as somebody once said to me, can you run that train back past me very slowly? We get all sorts of, so listen to what you say yourself, and I'm sure you'll be able to understand perhaps what are the most important kind of senses that you used in terms of storing memories. And olfactory, people do say it doesn't smell right, or I don't like the taste of that. But that's not as important in terms of learning. I'm not suggesting that you learn marketing theory and knowledge based on some of those senses. But I hope you get the idea about recognizing, again, in your own mind how you learn. Now, this, of course, has implications in terms of a very visual person will like to look at videos, PowerPoint presentations, will like to watch somebody talking about a subject. An auditory person will be quite happy listening to what people say. The visual person will like to read. So the way people learn, I suppose in a normal classroom situation, or we have a variety of learners, and some people are visual, some are auditory. They want different things, and it's very difficult sometimes to meet all the needs of these different people. So when you work out your own approach to learning, how you learn marketing knowledge, theory and concept and application, you have to look at what's available and pick out a route through that best suits your own way of absorbing information and storing those memories, that learning.